they feed their families out of the business of scrap metal, but therein sits cartels. And of course, these cartels have not made it easy for them to conduct business. And perhaps to that point where there is a ban. But at this very point, having individuals and heads that are actually running the sector different, we are looking forward to see whether there's any changes that have been made so far. And of course, it's a pleasure to have you to discuss this. First of all, perhaps to say jumbo to the people and those that are listening to you and eagerly waiting to hear what the business of scrap metal in the country looks like today. We would perhaps start by giving us the updates so far as to what progress has been made.
Thank you, Madam Linda, for having me in the studios today. And my name is Francis Mugo. I'm the chair of the Scrap Metal Council in Kenya. And Scrap Metal Council is a parastatal established under the Act of Parliament, that is Scrap Metal Act of 2015. Operationalization started in the year 2020, and it's the main our work as a council is to regulate the scrap metal industry in Kenya. And just like any other business, scrap metal business is just like any other business in Kenya, because actually it's an industry which has employed close to over 1 million people.
Yeah.
It's an industry that is sustaining 18 steel mills that we have in Kenya. It's an industry that is able to recycle waste of approximately 300,000 metric tons, which, if such kind of waste could have been left in the environment, could have been hazardous.
Right.
So it's an important industry in Kenya, and it is a driver of the economy, because all these constructions that you see, constructions of roads, houses, bridges, they all get the steel from the recycled scrap. So it's a very important industry in Kenya. Yeah.
Very important, and with an act capped to it, but equally an industry that is full of cartels, if you would want to call it. How have you managed it so far upon that appointment?
I wouldn't say that it's an industry that has cartels, because I've not experienced any from the time I came in. And we have made good strides, because I understand that there was a moratorium that was introduced sometimes in the year 2021, which moratorium ran up until 2022, around February. It was introduced by the former regime because of the many cases of vandalism that was taking place in the country.
Which was challenged so much so by a majority of people who were in the sector as well.
Yeah, it was challenged, because actually from where I sit, I can say it was not a well thought of, because all these players were not fully engaged. Right. They were not aware that there exists an act. They were not aware of the regulations that were there. So the decision to introduce the moratorium was hurriedly done without the consultation, and it made the prices of construction material like steel go so high. Yeah, so we have really tried to streamline the industry, and at the moment we are in the right trajectory. Yeah,
and the moratorium was lifted. And the moratorium was lifted.
Yeah, the moratorium was lifted last year. Yeah.
All right, so here we are. Let's get ourselves into that space of, first of all, understanding scrap metal business in the country. It is evident that if there's this entity, that it is allowed in the first place. Because one of the questions would be, is it allowed? Is it an illegal business? It is an open business. And just how expensive is it for one to get to a space where they are now fully licensed to operate as scrap metal business owners in the country?
Okay, scrap metal is a legal business, and anybody can do the business, provided that he has the requisite licenses that we issue as a council, and other bodies that assist us in regulating the industry. Right. So it is just like any other business in Kenya. Right. And for one to be able to do scrap metal business, first he must have a compliance from various bodies like NEMA. You must get a license from NEMA, because actually scrap is a waste. Yeah. At the same time, you must get clearance from Directorate of Criminal Investigation, that is a police clearance certificate. You must get a clearance from KRA. And clearance from KRA, then we send a multi-agency team that does the vetting. You make an application everything is online. You make an application to our end, we see it in the system. We relay the information to our county industrial officers. Those are the CDOs whom we work with. Then after that, they organize a multi-agency team composed of the county commissioner, county police commander, the relevant bodies, security agencies within a county. They do the vetting, they visit the premises where we would want to operate the business. And once they are done with the vetting, they write a report to us.
Yeah.
It is on the basis of that report that we issue license for one to trade in scrap metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have issued a statement, it's not even like a day, in relation to the questions of vandalism in the country. First of all, we understand that these cases are rampant, and you have given warning against, scrap metal business people, that they should not proceed to buy these from vandalized materials or public-private structures. But it is happening. Just what are the measures being put by the entity to make sure that at least this then becomes a game of the past, and perhaps there's some element of balance in making sure that this is not what is playing out in the market, because it's quite damning. It's been there for a long time, and it becomes a little bit hard to create that balance, or at least to manage this.
There has been issues in the past where the dealers in the industry were not well sensitized.
Okay.
And that's why there was a lot of vandalism that was taking place, because now if a dealer, if anything, any scrap is brought to dealers, they are not aware the source, where it came from, so they proceed and buy. And by so doing, they encourage vandalism that has been taking place.
Yeah.
So when I came in, I had a sit down with the council and various agencies within the security, and we saw it best, it's good to sensitize our members across the country, and that was we had been doing. We have been moving in various places where we assemble dealers, we talk to them and sensitize them on various issues, including vandalism. How can we avoid vandalism? Because actually we cannot say we want to develop as a country whereby our members are encouraging vandalism through buying the scrap that has got into their possession through vandalism. And in the recent past, we have had issues with the destruction of critical government infrastructure, particularly the Kenya Power. We have had incidences where transformers are brought down. Copper from the transformer, it's taken out and it's sold to the scrap metal dealer. Pylons, those huge pylons that are used by Kenya Power to supply electricity, are brought down and they are cut into pieces. So what we have been doing, we have been trying to sensitize our members and work with the multi-agency to make sure that the vandalism comes down. Yesterday, there was, due to the demos that were taking place, there was a lot of vandalism that was taking place. I understand some barriers, metal barriers along the expressway, part of Mlolongo, somewhere in Pipeline, and there has been vandalism of critical infrastructure. And we have issued statement that our members should desist from buying, because through the act of buying, we are like encouraging the vandalism to go on. And I want to thank scrap metal dealers, because they have heed to our advisory and caution, and they are not, the vandalism has gone down, apart from the recent one.
All right, and we take a quick short break and then come understand why then issuance of this statement, if you believe that the cases of vandalism have gone down after the short break. Okay. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. We have Francis Mugu, the chairperson of Scrap Metal Council of Kenya, and the conversation is on scrap metal regulation. We understand very well how, of course, the questions of vandalism have been a barrier to the flourishing and success of the scrap metal business in the country, and that's basically the conversation that has been ongoing. You know, one day you wake up and there's a ban on scrap metal businesses. The next day, of course, that ban is lifted, because then you are blocking very many people who are dependent on this very industry. And the question of vandalism is the biggest problem today. I realize that the business goes beyond the country. I realize that the difficulties go beyond the country, because, like you rightfully say, all these guards that were, destroyed yesterday during the times of the demo, if they're not going to be sold within the country, by default, they will find their way out into the market, perhaps here or beyond, whether legally or not. What are you doing as a stakeholder in this entity, and with other stakeholders that are around this very same business, to make sure that then this is kept at the highest level? Because I started by asking you, by the time you're issuing this statement, it is because, yes, there's an acknowledgement that in as much as the cases of vandalism could be going down, they're still there. And the main interest would be to make sure that, well, they are totally a game of the past. They are not happening.
The reason why we issued the statement is to caution our members that the vandalism that took place yesterday, where, as I said earlier, guardrails were destroyed, vandalized, and there was some sort of vandalism of critical infrastructure. It should not find its way into the yards of our dealers.
Right.
I'm not saying that the vandalism was done by scrap metal dealers, no. But the vandalized materials should not find its way to any dealer across the country. That's the reason why we're issuing the statement. At the same time, warning them that they should not support, because by buying the vandalized material, in one way or the other, they are supporting that vandalism. And I understand most of the vandalized material that has been, and vandalism that has been taking place, this scrap has found its way out of the country through illegal export, because we normally don't issue export license for metals that can be milled in the country. We call them ferrous metals. We only issue for non-ferrous metals, the metals that we cannot mill here. So what has happened? Some of these unscrupulous people smuggle the scrap out of country through some of the porous borders that we have. And for the last 2 weeks, I have been touring border points. I've gone to Holili, Taita Taveta. I've gone to Lunga Lunga, the Lunga Lunga Horo a border, one-stop border, where we have had sit down with the multi-agency teams that are working there on the importance of making sure that we work together as a team. Because if we are able to seal, to make sure that all these borders are safe, and everything that is within the country has been taken care of, I'm sure even this vandalism will go down, because these vandals will not get anywhere to sell there. Yeah. At the same time, if we allow the export of scrap into our neighboring countries, we are starving our industries here. And the same will resort to vandalism. So we are taking a balance to make sure that we protect the industry, at the same time we protect the infrastructure. Yeah. Okay.
And there's equally a concern as to, the unlicensed people who are as well camouflaging as legal scrap metal dealers. What is being done to do that, to cap that, or to manage that as well? Just how many, if you could be having the data, of licensed, scrap dealers are available in the country or around in the country, licensed and registered scrap dealers? Because then it also becomes difficult to get to know that this one is a licensed one. And if they're not licensed and they're actually purporting to be licensed, they will definitely take this scrap metal that has been vandalized.
As I said, after the moratorium was lifted.
Lifted, yes.
That's when many of the dealers began to understand that there existed a council that regulates the industry. And from last year to this year, because now most of those licenses expired, now renewals is ongoing, we had around 720 applicants whom we have issued with licenses, but applications are about 1,500, but those whom we have vetted and issued with license, they are around 720 currently. I understand there are so many people who do scrap metal and they don't have licenses. They camouflage as genuine scrap metal dealers. And we are working with the multi-agency team. We are working closely with the energy unit. At the same time, we are working very closely with the SIPU commanders across the 47 counties to make sure that they are able to assist us in winning the war against vandalism. And at the same time, one of the requirements, once you are issued with a license, is to put some kind of a billboard showing that you are a licensed scrap metal dealer, your license number, the trading name. So anybody who sees that, he can share the information with us and we can be able to check into our system to see whether that person is genuinely registered or is a fake dealer. So that's what we have been doing.
All right. What are some of the triggers that would get one's license revoked?
Misconduct. Once you are involved in any sort of misconduct, that is vandalism. You purchase vandalized material, or you are caught with materials that you cannot explain the source, or you flout our regulations, we suspend and eventually revoke your licenses. And we have been doing so. All those people who have cases in court, we have suspended their licenses while awaiting the outcome of the court process. Yeah, because we wouldn't allow to have dealers who, in one way or the other, they are promoting vandalism. Yeah.
And what are there are legal, of course, mechanisms installed towards making sure that illegal exporters are dealt with? Because it's one thing to put them on notice, it's another to act once you have apprehended them.
What's happening? We are working with the multi-agency. We are working closely with KRA and the police, and we have gotten a lot of support from the Office of Inspector General of Police and also the Commissioner General of KRA.
Right.
Once they supply us with information that so-and-so is engaging in misconduct, we have the procedure that we use, and the penalties are very stiff. The penalties that are contained in the Act, they are very stiff. So we caution first, then we move ahead and now take the action once we get the information, because like for us, we don't have powers to arrest. It's the police. So we have to work very closely with them. Borders are manned by custom officers from KRA. So we work together with these multi-agencies to make sure that we are able to implement the Act, operationalize the Act, and at the same time win the war on vandalism and promote the industry, because it's, as I said, it's a very important industry that has employed millions of Kenyans.
And it's also quite dicey, and I appreciate that you acknowledge the work that you're doing today together with other multi-agencies, with KRA itself. We had a latest concern in relation to, the Scrap Metal Association, of course, demanding for disciplinary action against the KRA for obvious reasons. This has been squared?
Yeah, we have sorted the issues.
All right.
And we have engaged officers in those respective border points, and we'll still engage others in the Busia, Malaba, Hispania. We'll visit all the borders, sensitizing, because as I said, a lot of sensitization needs to be done, including to some of government officials. So not many people are aware of the existence of the Act and the existence of the Council. So what we have been doing, we have taken the front part of sensitizing first. Then after sensitizing, now we can start fully implementation and operationalization. We are also in the process of gazetting our inspectors, whom will disperse across the country, and this will be representing us at the respective counties. the 47 counties.
Well put. Francis Mugo, the chairperson of Scrap Metal Council of Kenya, thank you so much for speaking to us. Unless you have something else to add, I think we can close it at this very point.
Okay, I would want to thank you for having me here.
It's a
At the
pleasure.
same time, I would want to urge our dealers across the country to make sure that they desist from vandalism, either directly or indirectly. At the same time, I would want to caution the dealers who are involved in illegal export and smuggling of scrap out of country that your days are numbered. We are coming for you because we have been losing close to 8,000 metric tons of scrap batteries and 5,000 metric tons of scrap, which are making our industries here to suffer. So it is wrong, it is immoral, and we will take action against those who are involved in such misconduct.
Well put. Thank you so much, Chair, for speaking to us once again. And we hope that we can have more of this conversation because, as you rightfully put it, it's step by step. From that moment of sensitization and to a point where we'll say that vandalism is a game of the past and of importance, we have some sanity in the level of this business of scrap metal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We shift gears to a different conversation. It is important that we teach our children finances after this short break. It is to teach our children finances, perhaps one of the subjects that we tend to overlook. And those ones that are in the world of finance will tell you that they will be focused on teaching Linda how to manage her finances, teaching Linda how to prepare for her retirement. But I've never met a person who is in the world of finance that has told me, I want to teach you how you will teach your children finance. Instead, they tell me you need to have an insurance for your child. You need to make sure that when they are living and they're going to school, in case of death, they do not have to struggle. How important would it be for you to sit down with your child and teach them and train them about how they're supposed to manage their finances? And at what stage do you begin this conversation? I'll start off by highlighting two stories. One, I remember someone asking me, that is my brother at some point in time. I have gotten into employment and all that. I got into employment as a young girl. I had not known how best to manage my finances. And then he's asking me this years later. And then I'm thinking, if only you asked me the same question years and years back when I was beginning employment, perhaps I would have been very far. Because maybe that would have triggered a conversation as to how I should manage my monies. Then I was thinking a beautiful dress, this, that, and everything. And then this money got lost somewhere in the air. Another story is that I remember my first employer, who was an Indian guy, coming to the office with this young little boy, and his t-shirt was reading, I am your next boss or your future boss or something of that nature. And I thought it's true, but by the time this person is your next boss, they must have been taught of how they're supposed to manage their finances. And so I'll allow the lady and gentleman introduce themselves. We have Patricia and Patrick. Purity and Patrick, or Purity and Mike. He doesn't like it when I call him, Patrick, to help us discuss this conversation.